Hi, everybody from around the internet. This is Nick,
Michelle, did you think
this
you were
is the.
hang on? Did you think you were doing an intro to your Let's Play channel?
I fell back into that. Like, this is our first podcast that we're doing
Yeah.
together. So I just fell back on doing my own intro almost for a second there. Because I say hi, hello everybody from all around the world. This is Nick, and welcome back to.
Yeah.
So, but we're struggling to find like what our
We're
intro is gonna be and different stuff. But we'll get better with each episode, and we'll be
we'll
like,
hit
oh,
our stride.
we could have done this better. We could have done that better. We could improve on this. We did this great.
That was funny though.
Working on it. But today's episode is going to be how we met and how the relationship evolved from there and got over time.
So basically, it's gonna go from like the beginning, which was 2016. Which is freaking crazy.
It's funny how time goes by quick like that. Where when you're going through stuff, time seems to be going by slowly. But looking back, you're like, oh shoot, 8 years has gone by.
Yeah.
And you're like, where did those 8 years go? It seemed like it was just 2 years ago. It's a strange thing, huh?
It's time. It's one of those things though where it's like you feel like time has gone really freaking slow for certain things.
Yeah.
But then it's like you look back on it from the point you're at now and you're like, that one quick.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it feels at the same time like it's been 6 months, and at the same time it feels like it's been like my life's you've always been in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we met through a mutual friend.
Yeah, we got to figure out code names for their
Well, we don't need code names.
You think so? Well, I would like to protect their privacy.
We will call. Well, I was just not going to call them anything.
Oh.
We met through a mutual friend. Well, this is what really happened was. There's a lot of players in this game.
Yeah.
Like I was just thinking, it starts out kind of crazy because, honestly, when we first knew of each other, I was married still.
Yeah.
And I was literally married to the point that I thought I was going to be married for the next 13 to 14 years. Because I was waiting until my son was going to be an adult. But when we first knew of each other was because I became friends with a coworker who was friends with Nick. And I also, whose name is Donald.
Donald, yeah.
Okay.
We'll go with Donald.
So Nick was friends with Donald. I was friends with Ashley. And essentially, me and Donald were trying to hook up Nick and Ashley. And in that process, a lot of stuff happened. Like, a lot of stuff happened. So we probably actually were in each other's orbit in, like, late 2015. Like, the very tail end of 2015 and in January of 2016. But we didn't really, like, interact that much, I don't feel like. Like, in passing a few times. And then late January is when we started really talking to each other.
And by that time, by the time we started
by the time we were even communicating, really.
You had separated.
I had separated already.
Yeah.
So for somebody that did comment in the last vlog I did where me and Nick were like, my divorce is fine. My divorce is final, but I have not been with my ex-husband for like 9 years.
Right.
Like it's been or 8 years, a little over 8 years. It's been a long time coming.
Right. In the legal sense, you were together technically.
Technically.
You were married still.
Right.
But for every other purpose aside from that, you've been separated mentally.
We've been separated.
Every other way there is.
We don't. Me and my ex-husband don't share anything except for our son.
Yeah.
Other than that, we do not share anything. We had not lived together. We were not. No, there was no. He is still a very good friend of me and Nick, but there was no crossover whatsoever. I wouldn't allow it, and I don't think Nick would have allowed it. So
no, we're not that kind of people.
We're not that kind of person. So there was absolutely no crossover whatsoever. So yeah, we met and we started dating early February of 2016.
And do we want to talk about how we met Donald? Like how the friendship started with him?
Well, I met him through just being in the same area.
Yeah.
It's weird to try and talk about things without saying things.
Yeah. The
Because while we
workarounds you have
don't
to do, yeah.
work there anymore, I still don't
Still.
want to be like, this is where we work. You know what I mean?
Just to respect the privacy of these people that
Right.
we're talking
Who
about.
do, I think, still, at least one of them still, well, yeah, one for, I think, still work there.
Yeah.
But so basically me and Donald were talking. He's a very, and I think Nick can attest to this too. He was a very charismatic human being.
Yeah, he really was.
There was never like enough. There was never, I don't know, he was a very charismatic human being. But so him and Nick, well, what happened? He worked on my shift and then he switched to your shift.
Right. So I met him and like I introduced myself and I gave him a fist bump and everything, and he was having a bad day, and I think I said, I can't remember exactly what I said, it's been a long time ago, but I said, you're going to get through this, you're going to be okay. He was basically being a supportive coworker. I try to be a good coworker wherever I work, and I was just being a supportive coworker, and he knew I walked to work and walked quite a while, like 3-4 miles. And he kept offering to give me rides to work because he's like, oh, I live close enough where I could drive you to work. And normally I said no because I like to walk anyways, and I don't like to have to rely on people, and for various reasons I said no for a long time. And then because I was walking further away, I got a blister on my foot. And then one time I did say yes to him, and then the friendship started from there, and then pretty soon he was driving me to work more often. And that's where it grew from there. And he was very charismatic, got along with a lot of people really well, really good, friendly, extroverted people person. He could just make friendships with people so easily and everything. And that's where it started. And I told him, I was looking for somebody eventually to spend the rest of my life with. And I told him I had a crush from Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I like the nerdy ones, that type. And he said, oh, I got a friend that looks a lot like Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then that was Ashley.
Yeah.
And she did look a little bit like, but more than just the appearance, I was more interested in the personality.
Right.
And the personality was quite different. Not in a bad way.
You don't want to talk bad about people, but it's like these two people in particular, like they were charismatic. Or Donald was a charismatic person. He was a nice person to your face. He was a nice person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you think in your mind, you're like, they were a good person. Like, they did have good qualities. So when we're talking about them, we're not saying they're bad people.
Yeah.
It's just in our lives, certain things that these people did was not good.
We were not the best things. There are certain behaviors and certain choices that were not the best. Overall, they had their good traits and their bad traits.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to talk about that next, about how from there,
from there it got real dark real quick. But here's the thing: is I think that in hindsight, and I've told you this, if I had not met Donald, I would never have left my ex. I would have never I would have stayed until my son turned 18. I would have, you know what I mean? I'd still be there. And so I think that was an important thing to happen to get us to the point we're at. And I've said that before. I think it was an important thing to have happen because he showed me, oh, you know what? I'm not going to be alone forever. Like,
right.
This person's interested in me, which, by the way, Donald was married too. But he was definitely interested in me. And I'll never forget. Because what happened was I set Nick up with Ashley. We went out to dinner one night. Which was, I have a story about that. That was so funny.
That was incredibly awkward for a lot of different reasons. Yeah.
I was talking to Nick. At this point, me and Nick were friends on Facebook. And I was talking to him on Facebook. And I'm like, look, this is how you're going to know if you like this person or not. And I was telling him, if you feel like at the end of the night, you're like, I don't want to leave, then it's probably a good situation. It's probably somebody you want to spend time with.
Right.
But the issue was was that I feel like at that point, I had already, I had just left my ex. And I feel like at that point, we already had feelings for each other.
Right.
But I was trying to set you up with Ashley. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to. But then, this is the awkward part. Ashley, who was the same age as. Either she was the same age as me or a little bit younger than me.
Give or take, yeah.
Wanted me to go with her. For your guys's, I thought it was a date. I guess maybe it was like, maybe not a date to her. I don't know. Wanted me to go with her. So she knew, like, oh, if anything weird happens, then you'll be there. And I'm like, well, I'm friends with Nick, so I guess that's okay. Like, I asked you. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm here.
Yeah.
And so the whole time was so awkward. Because I'm just sitting there, and we're, like, quiet, and Nick's starving, but all Ashley ordered was us 2 pancakes. And so that's what everybody ordered because that's what she ordered. And we didn't want to be like, oh, I want this big meal,
Yeah.
So Nick's like, yeah, I'll just get pancakes too. And he messaged me later and he was like, I was so hungry. But the whole point was it was extremely awkward for you and I feel like.
It was. And part of what I want to say is because it's a lot of different things. Ashley, I'm not going to say she is a bad person, but, it's like I said, the personality part is very important to me.
Yeah.
And we would text message, but I had a phone at the time where you could only text so often. Right. So I would send her long texts of all this stuff, like, what do you like? Just asking questions, trying to get her to know her better. And she was always cold and distant and just, there's some part that I still don't know who she was and what she was about, and I never got the sense of who she was.
And the funny thing is, I was her friend for how long? Like,
right.
2 years at that point, I think, or
right.
at least. And I feel like now looking back, I'm like, she told me nothing. Like, I don't know. I know, like, okay, I know she lived with her dad. I have no clue what happened to her mother. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of things that, like, I felt like, and maybe you feel the same way about her. Like, you told them so many things, and you literally have nothing.
Right.
Like, you come out of it. I feel like you and I, we know everything about each other.
Yeah, and the other part, too, is you and I were so easy to get along with. There was great chemistry right from the start, and you and I got along with. And my issue there's been many times I've made bad judgment calls about people. I've trusted people I shouldn't have trusted.
Right.
And so even recently there was a person, and I'm not going to say who out of respect for privacy, but there was a person who I thought he was a decent guy, who I thought he was a good guy and that I could get along with great, and he turned out to be scum of the earth. He turned out to be irredeemably just bad.
Right.
And so even to this day, I still have difficulty trusting myself to trust other people.
Yeah.
And so I was trusting Donald's judgment of this woman is right for you, but this woman is not.
And that's what he was saying, too, is a part that really upset me, too, is he's telling, here's the thing, to each other, he was like, oh, if I was talking about Nick, he would say, like, oh, well, he's perfect for Ashley. Perfect. They would get along great. But you and him wouldn't get along because of XYZ. Oh, he's horrible with children. He's, I just don't think that he has the right personality. Like, going on and on and on. And then with you, he'd say negative things about me. Like, oh, she's got a lot of issues. Which, not necessarily a lie. But, like in a negative way of being like, I don't think you guys would get along. Same thing he was saying to me, but saying it to him. But then to our faces be like, oh, if you guys did get in a... he would be the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, if you guys did get in a relationship, she would be the problem.
Right.
But always making it seem like we were fine, but the other person maybe not the best match.
Right. And at the time, I should have known better, and I should have not trusted myself to trust him. I should have not trusted my own judgment to trust his. Looking back at it now. And so, because of all those issues, I was so torn and conflicted because my heart was saying, go with Michelle.
Right.
But I had been hurt so many times in the past by trusting my own judgment that I was hesitant. And I still feel bad about it to this day because I was going for Ashley for so long. And even though I had feelings for Michelle, because I was trusting Donald's judgment and I didn't want to trust myself, trust my heart because I had been hurt before.
Right.
And I feel bad to this day that I didn't go with you right away, and I'm sorry for that.
Well, yeah,
And I'm sorry I was so torn.
but I feel like if you had been like, oh, like straight out of the gate when we first met, it wouldn't have worked out anyway. I would have had to been like, I'm married. It's gonna be weird. You know what I mean? Like it would have been a whole thing. So I think it happened for a reason.
Right.
But I feel like I'm saying, it would have been a whole other situation had we just straight out of the gate said, okay, well, it would have been catastrophic.
Yeah.
I feel like, but.
Because you and I got along great right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because with Ashley, it was a struggle just to know, find out basic information.
It was literally to have a conversation with her that wasn't you talking constantly, was like pulling teeth. Be like, oh, well, tell me how. There was so many situations with her of just like bad friendship situations. Of just being like, why are you like that? You know what I mean? Like when I got sick. I got real sick with that tonsillitis. Remember that?
That was awful.
And we had to go out for something for work. And then they wanted to go eat. And after we were done eating, I'm like, I really just want to go home. I was so sick. I felt so bad. It was one of those illnesses where you feel the minute you're sick.
Yeah.
Like the second you get sick, you know it.
You are a tough person, and I've seen you go through so many things and be fine and be functioning.
Yeah, that
but
was bad.
that was your kryptonite. I've never seen you be that debilitated before. I was bringing you tea for your throat, and it was awful. Like I've seen you go through flus and even the other thing.
Yeah.
The thing that that happened in 2020 that a lot of people had.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you know, you know.
You know, the vid.
Yeah.
We've been through that. I've been through cancer. I've been through hysterectomy. Like, we've been through a lot of shit together. We really have. Mostly really me, have. But we really have been through a lot of stuff together. But the thing is she was just, and I was so sick, and I was really sick. I really didn't feel good. I was like, I want to go home. And she literally made me call somebody to come get me. She wouldn't even take me home. And I wasn't driving at the time. I want to make that abundantly clear. I did not get my license until we were dating for over a year.
Yeah.
But so I had to go home. I just didn't feel good. And she was not a good friend. And I think it's one of those things where in the hindsight, I'm like, oh yeah, I see that she wasn't a good friend. But it was, anyway, those were the people that got us together.
So what ended up happening was I was trusting Donald's judgment, and looking back in hindsight, at the time I thought he had our best interests at heart.
Right.
But maybe what he was doing was he wanted you.
Right. Which we found out later.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe he was trying to set me up with Ashley because then I wouldn't end up with you or something at first.
And I think I can remember the exact moment that we were on the phone and I was putting that freaking metal bed frame together. And I was sitting on the floor and I said, well, he has told me, and this was after I had separated. I want to make that very clear because somebody made a comment. They're like, you've been married to somebody else this whole time. No, I'm technically, legally, yes. But me and my ex had no relationship for the last, there was, like I said, there was no crossover. I want to make that very clear. But I specifically remember sitting on the floor of that bedroom in California, making that bed frame. And I said, well, he wants to get with me. Because you were telling me what he was saying about me to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he wants to get with me. And I'll never forget Nick going, no, he doesn't. You're just misunderstood. And I said, no, Nick, there is no misunderstanding what he's telling me. And he said, no, I think you might be reading something into it that's not there. And I sent him screenshots of messages, which is probably wrong in hindsight, but... Well, not really. I sent him screenshots of messages, and he goes, oh, I'll never forget. You were like, I could just tell the moment that you were like, I made a mistake again.
Yeah.
Because like we say, Donald was married with children, 3 small children, which granted, I was married with a child too. He was married with 3 small children. And there was a lot of situations with him, even after I had ended my other relationship with my ex, where I was like, this is like borderline really not, like really gross. You know what I mean? So we did end up ending those friendships. Well, I ended the friendship with Donald. You just stopped talking to him, I think. You were like, I'm done.
Yeah, and you were really patient with me throughout this whole thing because I was like, do I go with Ashley or
Oh,
do
yeah,
I
he was
I wish
really indecisive.
I was saying I wish you were Ashley, and all this stuff, and you're like, but I am, or I
Yeah.
wish Ashley was like you, I was saying.
But
'Cause
I would tell him that I'm literally like
I'm
right here.
here.
So
Yeah.
it's like, it was just, there was a lot of like indecisiveness of
And
like,
I still feel bad about that to this day.
Nick
That
holds pain very close to the chest for a long time, but we're okay and we're here, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But those are the two people that kind of, yeah. So I stopped talking to Donald, then you stopped talking to Donald, then I tried to remain friends with Ashley for a while because she was a very good friend to me. Kind of. I mean, like I say, in hindsight, you look at it and you're like, no, she wasn't. But it's like at the time when I was going through so much upheaval and, my ex was moving out and I was having to, move all his stuff out. We're trying to figure out with our son and all this stuff. I didn't want to end that too. I thought it was too much. Because at that time, I didn't I think I've gotten a lot better with just cutting people off and being like, I don't like where this relationship's going, I'm done.
Right.
I've gotten a lot better now, but at that time I wasn't as good of being like, I just don't want to talk to this person anymore. Same with her, same with Donald, because he did message me more than once even after you and I were together for a while. And I still would be like, what do you want? Not just like ignore it. Be like, what do you want? Like, do you need something?
Right.
Like, what the hell could he possibly need that I could help him with?
Right.
But you know what I mean? I did have a problem with just cutting people off. Now I don't. I just do it. And I'm like,
you get enough red flags, and then you're like, your own peace is more valuable.
yeah, my own mental health is more valuable than me sitting here worrying about them messaging me. What are they going to say? Stuff like that. So but I did try to remain friends with Ashley for a while after you and I were together. But it came to a point where she literally would be at work telling people that I stole her boyfriend.
Right.
You were her boyfriend and I stole you from her. When that literally, you guys went to one meal together and I was there.
Right. And she was distant for like almost the whole time.
She didn't talk the whole time.
I asked her if she wanted a relationship or not, and she's like, maybe we'll just stay friends for now.
And then I was the bad guy. I was the, for lack of a better word, I was the slut. I was the one that stole her man. She would tell people, oh, keep her away from your man. Like, I'm some kind of freaking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that was not at all the situation.
And one of the things I appreciate you and I appreciate about you to this day is how honest you are and upfront and how you just tell things as they are and to the point. Because there's so many times where people make hints and I'm just not the best at reading them.
Oh, I told you straight out.
Yeah, you told me straight out how you felt, and you were being like, you'd be like, I want to be in a relationship with you, and being very flirty, like in an obvious way.
Right.
I won't go into the details.
Right.
But you made it very clear, and as someone who's not the best at reading people, reading situations, and has made mistakes on either side where I think the person's not interested in me, so I don't do anything, and it turns out they are.
Right.
And then on the opposite side where I think they're interested in me, and then I make the mistake that they're not actually interested. It was great to have that right from the gate that you were so honest and upfront with everything.
Because here's the thing too, I told you straight out of the gate. Me and my kid are a package deal, buddy. So if you don't like kids, because that's what I was hearing for the last, however long. If you don't like kids, this is the wrong situation to be in.
Right.
And then number two, I was 30 at this point. I was 30, just about to turn 31 when you and I started communicating and dating and stuff. I was like, I am 30. I am not here to be like, oh, we'll go to dinner once a week and that's it. Like, it's everything or nothing. Like, I don't want to, I'm one of those people though, literally, that I want to go from like, oh, we're just dating to like living together within like, you know what I mean?
And that's
within
how it
like
happened,
5 or 6 months we were living together because it was like, I want you here with me. Even if you're going to work, I want to be able to be the one to bring you home from work or, you know what I mean? Or, I want to be around you. And it's just, and at the time you were renting a room, essentially. And it was like, if you're, and even my parents, because as you guys may or may not know, we live with my mom. Well, we lived with both my parents at the time, but my dad since passed away. But we lived with my parents at the time. And even my mom was like, why doesn't he's here anyway? Like, from the time that we said, okay, let's date, let's be serious. You were at my house more than you were at home.
I was. And
my house was closer, too, to where you worked.
And it was that time where I give your mom and your dad a lot of credit, and I still appreciate them to this day that they gave me the chance.
Yeah.
And to move in with you and be with you, and that they accepted me into their home.
Because it was my mom's idea.
Yeah.
Because I was like fine with you just coming and visiting like a couple nights a week. You'd spend the night or whatever. I was okay with it. I did want you to live there, but I wasn't going to be like, oh, I had just 6 months ago, separated from my ex, and I was moving another guy in. You know what I mean? But it was my mom's idea. She's like, if he's going to pay rent there, he might as well just pay rent here and stay here with you. Because he's here anyway.
Yeah.
Like he's got food in the fridge. Like he's here. So he might as well just stay here. And like I say, it was a logistics thing too. It was closer. You would have had more time at home because you weren't walking to and from.
Yeah.
And then from there, I feel like we've made every step we've made, everything that we've done in our relationship has been better. Like we're better now than where we were
when we started.
And that's all you can ask for. Like, I know that I'm not the easiest person to get along with. I know I'm not the most, I have my issues, and I'm very vocal about them. I mostly with you, I tell you everything that's wrong with me and everything that I'm having some kind of mental crisis about. I always tell you.
And I've got issues too, and we've dealt with them together. And I think that's one of the many things I love about us together is that we communicate really good.
We've gotten, though, within the last 2-3 years, a lot better.
Yeah.
Because the thing is we do argue. We have had fights that were loud fights.
Yeah.
Mostly me being loud, but I'm loud, period. I'm sure a lot of people would agree. But we have had loud fights, maybe 3 or 4 in 8 years, where it's oh my god.
Yeah.
Or is this the end of
the relationship
because we've got in an argument? But it's also, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've gotten a lot more reflective of how I react to things.
Yeah.
And I will literally, when you get in the car, I'll say, I'm going to yell and I'm going to vent. And this is not, I just have to do it.
Yeah.
You did this or you did that. And it's just pent up. And if I don't let it out, it's like a freaking, you know what I mean?
A lot of times you're just upset about a situation. It doesn't even have to do with me at all.
Sometimes I do vent and I'll be like, Nick, this is not, and we're going to talk about this in we're doing a mental health, being an introvert podcast, but, so I don't want to go too deep into it, but a lot of the time is his initial reaction is, I want to help you. I want to fix it. I want to make it better so you're not upset.
Right.
And a lot of the time it's the only way that you can make this better is just listen to what I'm saying.
Right.
And go, that freaking sucks ass. And that's it. And that's all I need.
Right. I think we've gotten better because you'll say, oh, this is not you. This is the situation.
And that's what I'm saying. I've gotten better with communicating the fact that, look, in this situation, there is nothing you can do. And I know. But I need to tell you that I am so annoyed or I'm this or I'm that or whatever. And it helps so much.
It really does.
Because you know or sometimes he'll get in the car and I'll say, this is a reaction I want you to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want you to try and fix it. This is just what I need you to say.
Which helps a lot because normally my reaction
is what you need.
Yeah.
What I need, I
mean. And sometimes I'll be like, is this something you want me to fix or is this something you want me to just listen and have you vent?
So I open with that. And it's really helped the relationship a lot.
It really has. Because I'd be trying to fix stuff or offer solutions and I'll be frustrated because I'm trying to help.
Right.
But she's still upset. And then that has helped a lot.
It's been 8 years.
Yeah.
You have to get to the point where you're like, it's been 8 years.
And I try to approach a lot of situations where, like, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? How can I do better for next time? I do that with a lot of things in
Yeah.
my life. And I approach this relationship the same way. Like, what could I have done better? What did I do right? What can I not get rid of that's good, but get rid of that's bad and
Right.
improve each time?
And I think we both do that because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I don't need to react like that because when I react like that, then he reacts like this, and this is not good for anybody.
Yeah.
So if I just go into it saying, this is not a problem you can fix, or why did you do this? And just listen to why he did what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'm not in the mood to listen, but sometimes, a lot of the time anymore, I really am. I'm like, okay, explain to me. You know what I mean?
And
Why?
yeah, I think that's the other thing too, is because my thought process is so different from a lot of people's.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing something that I don't think is weird. I think it's just normal. Like, this is how I would normally do it. And I think that's part of one of the many reasons why I have a hard time with relationships, is because I'm just different in a lot of ways. And I
Yeah.
don't mean that with an ego, either bad or good or neutral. That's just how it is.
You are different, yeah.
I in a lot of situations I think different from people. I have different values. I have a different way of perspective of looking at things, and that can be a lot for someone who doesn't understand my thought process or perspective, or
Right.
that's willing to listen, and and it can be frustrating for me too. But I've had it happen so often to me that I'm just more used to it. I'm like, everybody's just gonna think differently from me. And then when someone doesn't, I'm like, wow, someone actually thinks the same way I think, and it's
Right.
actually nice. But there's so many times where that's just not the case.
And I think that it takes somebody, and I'm not, like you just said, I'm not saying it good, bad, or indifferent, but to really want to be like, okay, I am going to try to understand you. Because I love you. I'm going to try and understand why you think the way you do. And I will literally ask him questions. Explain to me why you did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Explain to me, well, I do this, or I have 2 water bottles because of this, or you know what I mean? I literally will say, I need you to explain this to me because I don't get it. And it takes somebody that really loves you to say, I just need you to explain.
Yeah.
I need you to explain to me so I understand, so that next time it happens, I don't do the same thing again and get upset.
Right. Like, just as an example, one time we had a bunch of stuff in the trash can that smells really bad, right? And so I get the orange odor stuff to spray into the trash can, and which to me seems normal. Like, oh, the trash can smells really bad. Let me put a deodorizer spray into the trash. But it seems strange to someone else.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, that looks normal.
It's like, just take it out.
Yeah.
But the thing is I get it. I mean, it's just, there's some things that you do that I'm just like, you know what I mean? You guys can't see, but it's just kind of like, shrug.
You just shrug your shoulder.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't know, but he does it, so I just, here we go, you know?
Yeah, and another example is a long time ago at high school graduation, everybody steps up on the podium, then they get their diploma, and then they step down on the steps. And for me, I felt more natural just jumping off the stage. It wasn't like something that, oh, I'm going to look different and be different from everybody else intentionally.
Right.
It felt much more natural than having to step down the steps, so I just jumped down the stairs. And there are times where I do things to stand out and be different and think differently, but a lot of times it's just me just being me.
Yeah.
And just, like, it's much easier for me I might trip on the stairs. I might, and I could fall down jumping down, but it just felt more natural to me. And it's just 2 examples.
And I think too with you, a lot of what you do and what's different about you is you have a mentality of what difference does it make.
Yeah.
Whether I jump down or I walk down, I'm still getting down. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you do have that mentality about a lot of things, like,
yeah,
even things just with us trying to, clean the room or get it more organized or whatever. It's like, I got a new trash can.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna hate this trash can. It's, you know what I mean? Because I feel like for you, you'd be like, well, just put the trash at the end of the bed. What difference does it make? It's still trash.
Right.
Whereas I'm like, more, I want it in that spot specifically. It has to go, which is probably some mental health, ADHD, some OCD thing or something.
Which I might have too.
Right.
Oh, I know.
Which is like, I need to measure, literally in here with a tape measure, to make sure I get a trash can that's going to specifically fit right there.
Right.
Because that's what I want. And if it's not right there, the whole room is a lost cause.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you don't, to you maybe, because that's not how you function.
Right. I think the other struggle too, and we can talk about this more in the mental health introvert thing in the episode. But there's so many times where I will just think differently from people, and people do things that I just accept. Okay, they're just going to be different from me, and that's just how it's going to be.
Right.
Even if it doesn't make sense to me, I try to understand, but a lot of times it doesn't. And that happens to me so often that I go with the flow, and I just be like, okay, that's just how they want things. It doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
It just is what it is.
Because sometimes you'll get that look on your face.
Yeah, where I'm just confused.
Where he's like, what the hell is going on? And
or it
it's
doesn't
like,
make sense.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's just what we want.
And that's sometimes what I've learned over time is I try to understand people's perspective, but the flaw with it is it's what I would do in that situation, even if I put myself in their shoes.
Yeah.
It's still my perspective, not their perspective. It's still my values and what.
And I feel like
even in that situation, I can't think beyond that. I've tried to. I've tried to imagine what perspective or values that they'll have in that situation versus my own, but
that's kind of like trying to figure out why Pete doesn't eat his wet food sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I'm like, you have not eaten since yesterday morning. Eat the food. But there's times that he's like, I'm not eating because you're looking at me. Or I'm not eating because you're not looking at me. Or I'm not eating because you're breathing the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like, this literally, you guys, this is how this dog is.
Yeah.
But, it's just, we just don't get it because we're not that person.
I am getting rid of that watch eventually. I don't know if you guys can hear the beeping sound, but anyway, one of the other things I wanted to talk about, we're on 36 minutes.
I'm just trying to keep these to 45 minutes. So.
Was one of the things that Donald was talking about was how I'm not good with kids. And the reason why is because my parents had bad parents, and I grew up hearing about the bad parents that they had, and there were ways that they could have been worse, and I'm grateful that they weren't worse than they were.
They weren't great.
Yeah. And I try to count my blessings and think of other situations, because no matter where you are in life, there's billions of people. Someone's had it worse and better in some category. It's what you do with it is what matters the most. It's what you do with. But I did not want to have children because I wanted to break the cycle. I wanted to be the last one in that particular branch, and I wanted it just done. And one of the hardest questions in life is whether you know if your life has ever meant anything, or what your life means to other people, or what kind of positive impact. Hopefully my life has had more positive impact than negative, but for a lot of reasons, and we can talk about this in the mental health, I felt like I shouldn't have been born in the first place, because my parents had bad parents, and they had bad parents, and I felt like my parents should have been like, okay, we're not going to have any more kids.
Right.
But I used to feel that way. I don't feel that way anymore. I used to feel like Frankenstein's monster, where I was an abomination that never should have been. And every once in a while that will creep up a little bit, but I felt like I've done more good than bad, and I have value, and I have enough value to exist, and that I do mean something, and I have broken the cycle. I have broken the cycle where I'm a good parent, and I'm a good husband, and I'm even if my parents and their parents might not have been, I'm better than that they were, at least in a lot of ways.
Right.
So that's why I didn't want to be around, like, have kids, or be with someone who does have kids.
Right.
And it was a struggle where people would be like, try to set me up with people who had kids, and it was never a judgment on them.
Right.
But on myself.
Right.
Like, I'm what's wrong. I don't want to affect anyone. And that's another reason why I had struggled with relationships, is because I'm this abomination that shouldn't be around anybody. And it was a real struggle of people telling me, oh, you're such a great guy, you're such a nice guy, you're so kind, you're going to break the cycle, because I would tell them what I'm telling you guys and Michelle right now. And they'd be like, you're a great father, you're so kind, you're so thoughtful, you work really hard, and you try really hard, and you mean well. And that's all a child needs, is for you to care about them and try hard, and know, even if you make mistakes, that you're trying to be a good person in their lives. That's all they need. And it took a lot of convincing, not just by you, but a lot of people that I would tell the story to, tell my life story, about that it took a lot of convincing for me to be like, I'm going to be a good enough of a role model or person in your son's life
Right.
to be. I know that was a long-winded
No,
explanation,
but it think that no, but it made sense. I mean, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how long it takes to
yeah,
get to the point, as long as you get there and it makes sense, and it did. But I think that it's important to say too, though, it was not a linear, like he stepped into the role and it was perfect and nothing bad ever happened. And no, we had moments.
yeah,
I can think of at least one where
yeah,
Nick is a sweetheart and we love him so much. But it's literally with him, it's black or white. I'm gonna either tell you the truth and tell you that bluntly what happened, or I'm not gonna say anything because Nick is not a liar. He does not lie.
yeah. I really hate to lie.
He hates it.
I don't like doing it.
It doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't matter if I'm like, because there are certain situations I feel like you need to be a little bit more like, this is like a white lie. Like, we need to just not say anything. He would rather say nothing.
Yeah.
But there was a situation when when our son was, oh God, how old was he? Like 5, 6 years old?
Yeah.
Maybe. And his hamster, Mr. Nibbles, died.
Yeah, that was tough for him.
And he was really upset. And Nick sits him on the bed and he goes, well, everything dies. And I said, okay, Nick, come on. I said, come on. And I took him in the kitchen and I said, look, he's 5. And one day, the world is going to knock him off. And I've said this to you more than at that point.
Yeah.
I've said this has been a theme.
Yeah.
One day, the world is going to knock him on his butt. And I know that. I know that about him because I know him.
Yeah.
We just need to be there to be like, you're going to be okay. Like, it's going to be all right. But he needs it to happen at some point. The world is going to say, look, buddy, you just need to conform a little bit.
Yeah.
Now is not the time. And I told you that. I said, look, this is not how we handle this.
Yeah.
He's gone to hamster heaven or like, oh, I'm so sorry, whatever.
Yeah.
But the way Nick's like, everything dies eventually. It's like, okay, hang on. Like, let's tone it back a little bit. He's 5.
Right.
And I don't believe in lying to your kids. I mean, I think he realizes things die now. I mean, he's lost his grandfather. You know what I mean? He's lost a few pets in his life. Like, he understands that things die and they don't come back.
Right.
It's just like, he has learned it through time, as I said he would,
Right, he has, yeah.
But when they're little kids, so it's not like you stepped into the role of step parent. He was like super dad.
No.
Like, he's not. He cares very, very deeply. But even now, Connor's 13.
Yeah.
And you've been in his life for the last 8 years. Even now, they still, like last week, y'all got in a fight over something. Never physical.
No.
But they were not happy with each other. And in those moments, I have to step in and be like, okay, this is what you're not going to do. And this is what he's not going to do. Because you both were wrong in the situation that had happened. You were both wrong.
Yeah.
So you're not doing this, and he's not doing this. And I think it's really important, unless there's like like he straight up backhands you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which he would never do.
No.
There's a blatant, you were wrong and he was wrong. And so I'm going to put you guys together and tell you why you were both wrong.
Right.
And that's just, I think it's important. And he's now, but the thing is, you are usually 95% of the time perfect father.
Right.
You really are. You're very good with him. You explain things to him. You're patient with him. You spend time with him. You do. Yeah. We are doing the best we can.
He and I have a great bond. He loves me a lot.
Yeah.
And you and your mom will say like, "Oh, Connor did this," and he's like, "You're his whole world," and he loves you and everything.
Yeah.
And Connor named his character after you and the video game that he plays because he loves you and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And we have a great bond together.
We really do.
And I'm so glad that you're here. Sort of like guide rails to be like, oh, this situation you could have handled this better.
Right, and I don't feel like I'm ever like, okay, you need to shut up and he needs to, I try, initially I might be like, okay, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I try to be really diplomatic about it because it doesn't help. I've learned that the older I've gotten, yelling at people and overreacting, it's not going to help the situation. Doesn't matter how overwhelmed I feel. I still do it. I still snap every once in a while, but we'll talk about that in the next podcast. But I still react poorly sometimes. And I know that, but I really tried to be like, okay, let me take it. Like with him, usually what he did, I would have, you know what I mean? It would have been an explosion. I would have been yelling, no computer, take his keyboard away, like the whole 9 yards. And I think sometimes there are things that warrant that reaction.
Yeah.
That just wasn't one of those things. And I stood there and I said, okay. Because the problem with Connor is that he instantly starts crying. And then he can't talk to you. He can't explain anything.
Right.
And I said, okay, we need to calm down. And you're going to take the trash out because that's what you were supposed to be doing. Because that was what the argument was about.
Yeah.
You're going to help Nick take the trash out. And when you're done doing that, you're going to take a shower. And then you're going to feel better. And he's still crying. I'm not going to do it. And I stayed really, really calm. Because it doesn't help to yell at him because you're just going to cry more. I said, okay. I just want to preface this all by saying Connor is autistic.
Yeah,
I don't want people to think my 13-year-old just cries and he's, neurotypical. He is not. He's autistic. But he has jobs that he's expected to do, and very few of them. So he's expected to do them when he's asked to do them. So I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to do A, B, and C. And because this happened, you are not doing D today, which was play a video game you guys enjoyed together. Yeah. We're not doing that today. Because number one, this is not the day you're supposed to be doing it. You guys do it on the weekend. And number two, what you just did, unacceptable. So he was like, okay. He went out. He did what he had to do. He was mad the entire time, stomping down the hallway. He came in. He took a shower. Got out of the shower. You feel better? Yeah. You just got to take a minute sometimes.
Yeah.
He just needs to take... And I try, though, because I was not always like that.
Yeah, when it comes to discipline, you are a wizard with him. Because I will try to explain things to him, and I will talk, and it doesn't get through. But you have a way of talking with him where it will get through. I
think my biggest flaw, though, with trying to discipline him, I know this has gone off the rails slightly. It's still not our relationship, kind of.
Yeah.
My thought on trying to discipline him is I've gotten to the point where I just don't want to leave him crying.
Yeah.
I don't want him to leave him to deal with that by himself, thinking she doesn't give a shit whether I'm crying or not.
Yeah. And he's a very emotional person. He's a very emotional person. Little things can set him off. Like he'll find like one of his hamsters' name was Diamond, and he'll find like a diamond thing that'll remind him of his hamster, and he'll start crying.
Yeah.
So
he's sensitive.
Little things can trigger him where he'll start crying.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Donald's concerned about, me not being good with children, or because I had told Donald before what I had told you guys just now, and so he thought because of that I wouldn't, and I thought for a long time too. It, like I said, it took a lot of convincing there were so many potential not many, but some relationships that I could have done or could have potentially started or tried to, where people were trying to hook me up with people who had kids that I just didn't want to,
I think there's a reason, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
You got to think about the bigger picture. Like, okay, let's say you had gotten with somebody that had kids and you realized all this stuff. Well, then I would still be stuck. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I would still be stuck in my situation, but...
And it's one of those things that philosophically about life, I've seen so many people say, oh, things happen for a reason. I always thought it was an excuse to feel better for their mistakes or feel better about life.
I think sometimes it is.
And there is some value to that I made a mistake. It's important to always learn from your mistakes and not try to make them again. But maybe things do happen for a reason. Maybe the mistakes that I made that led up to me living farther away where I had to walk to work at a further distance and end up getting a blister. You think of all the mistakes all the things that led us to being together.
Yeah.
Like, had I not made the mistakes I made where I had to live further away, and had I not gotten the blister, I would have not taken the ride with Donald.
Yeah.
And then Donald and I might have become as good of friends as we were, and you and I wouldn't be together.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that. It's sometimes the butterfly effect of life can be strange that way. where you do one thing and then it can change the whole
course of everything.
And there's so many things in life to think are insignificant or don't matter, and then sometimes they do. Like having to walk into work longer and getting a blister can lead to you finding the person that you've been with for 8 years.
Yeah.
You just it's
And it's one of those things too where it's like it's the happiest relationship I've ever been in with for the longest amount of time. I'm not saying it's always going to be easy, and it hasn't always been easy, and it's not probably always going to be easy from here on out. But it's like, we just know. Like, it's just nice to just know. Like, it's not going to be easy, but we're not going anywhere. Like,
right.
It doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter how mad we get. It's mostly me, but I've really tried to hone that back as much as I can. Because I know where to hit where it hurts, and I need to not do that. And I haven't in a long time. I don't want to make it seem like I probably haven't in, like, the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But, it's not always going to be easy, but it's just nice to know, like, where in the heck are you going? Because I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you.
Yeah.
So you need to just figure it out, because this is all we got, buddy.
Right, because I was thinking about talking about this in the mental health introvert thing, but it's very hard for me. I don't like dating. I don't like dating.
And we didn't.
We went straight into it.
We didn't date. I literally told you, I don't want to date. Like, when you're 30, which I think you were only
25, 26.
Yeah.
Around there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give or take.
I forgot how young you were.
Yeah.
No.
You're only 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
Only 2 years.
But when you're, so you were like 27, 28.
Yeah.
So when you're, when you're at that age, I mean, not necessarily you, because I was in my 30s. I'm like, I don't want to do this all, let's go to McDonald's and see a movie. Like, I don't want to do it. I just want to be comfortable. Comfortable silence. Parallel play, which is not kinky. It's where you do separate things together.
Yeah, we'll be on our computers, and she'll be watching videos or whatever, and I'll be watching videos or playing video games or whatever.
It's like, I want that. That's what I want. I want that comfortable silence of, like, we're going to read this book. The same book, the same chapter.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk the whole time.
Yeah.
I know everything about what happened to you at work. You know everything that happened to me when you weren't at work, or when you were at work.
Yeah.
We know everything about each other. Nick knows every pain I've ever had in the last 8 years of my life. I know a lot about Nick, and he tells me what's wrong. You know what I mean? It's like it's perfect. Perfect.
The things that have happened with us together, that we've experienced and shared, the things that we've gone through. There's times I've broken down and I've cried in front of her, and she's held me, and
and vice versa.
Yeah, and
my dad died.
There's times where I
mean, my dad died. I got cancer that I was not expecting. I mean, we'll go into that in another podcast. I feel like we're getting to the end of this one, but we've been through a shitload of stuff.
We have, good and bad, and we've gone through the ups and downs together. Like, we've faced your dad
died. You went no contact with your family. Like, there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We could do a whole other podcast on just every freaking...
We could do a part 2 to this. We could.
We could. Might.
Or we could keep going to like an hour and a half or something.
No, stop it.
But
go ahead.
One of the things I might save it for the...
We should probably save some of this for the mental health podcast. Yeah. I feel like a lot of the bad shit that's happened goes into that.
Yeah. I was just thinking that I wanted to say that for people who are extroverted or have good social skills or have a lot of things in common with people where they can make quick, easy connections, dating is fun for those people.
Yeah.
If you have enough of those qualities. I have none of those qualities. Not a single one. I'm introverted. I try hard and I mean well, and a lot of that times that goes through, but I don't have the best social skills.
No.
I don't have a lot of things in common with people where I can make quick, easy connections. It's a struggle. Being social with people is a struggle. You have to read context, and every conversation is this thing of, okay, this is what they mean on the surface, but what do they mean beneath that, and all this stuff, and all these questions. Yet it's not fun. It's not fun.
And a lot of the times when things are happening, you have like a reaction that it's like, okay, I have to explain to you in front of people sometimes, like, this is okay, like, we're fine. This person is just I know this person from such and such. There has been situations, which we'll talk about in the introvert slash.
Yeah.
But there's been situations where he hasn't reacted, and I'm like, dude, where were you? You know what I mean? Like, what happened? Usually you would be like puffing your chest out, and this time you're just like, ah.
Yeah.
You know, so I
think I know which situation you're talking
we'll talk about that in the next one.
But that's one of the many things that, like I said, that I respected Michelle. She was really upfront and very clear right from the start, and we got along great. It was so effortless and so
easy.
It was so easy and so fun right off from the bat. We would talk for like 4 hours on Facebook, almost every day, and then we would hang out. And it was so easy and so, like, we had great chemistry right from the start. We could talk so well, just like we're doing now.
Right.
And it's so easy. And I had that with almost nobody. Like, maybe 1% of people I know are like that. And out of those 1%, like, you're the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
You're...
Because I'm one of those people, like, what, and you're the same way. But, like, what you see... Other than things that I'm like, I'm just angry, so I need to say something not nice.
Yeah.
Like, really not... You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. Like, literally how I talk to you, about you, etc. is what I would say behind your back.
Right.
And you're the same way with me.
Yeah.
Because I cannot think of one thing that I have said to somebody else that I wouldn't just tell you straight to your face.
And I've always respected that about you.
Yeah, like Nick will be like, oh, I know I'm annoying you, or I'll be like, yeah, you are. You know what I mean? But you would do the same thing to me, like, oh, I know I'm being annoying, but can you? And Nick will be like, no, you're not annoying me. But it's like, when you're coming at somebody and you're saying, I know that I'm annoying. I apologize. I know I'm anxious, and I know that me talking about my breathing or this or that is annoying. I am sorry, but I need you to listen. Right. It's just communication. And I feel like that's really important in our relationship is that we communicate.
Right. We do really good on that.
And I will say to him, Nick, I know I sound insane, but I need you to tell me that I'm not having a heart attack. You know what I mean? Because I do have and we'll talk about that in the mental health thing, but I have horrible anxiety, and it hasn't always been that way. And anybody else could have been like, you are too much, and I'm leaving.
Right.
Because it wasn't like that in the very beginning. I was very like, whatever. But then stuff happened with my dad. Stuff happened with me. And now it's just horrible. It's a lot worse than it was.
Life can be scary like that. And one of the other things, I know we've gone a bit longer than the 45 minutes that we had slotted originally. But one of the many things I just wanted to say before we end it is, one of the many things I love about us, too, is that how much we make each other laugh.
Oh, my God.
Like, you've made me laugh more times than anyone ever has.
I have peed We are going to do a whole podcast of stories that Nick has told that have made me wet my pants. Literally. Yeah. We're doing a whole... I got to write that down.
Yeah. And there's times where I'm not funny, but I think my batting average is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I've made you laugh more times than not, I think. And you've made me laugh many times. And that is important in life, because there's going to be a lot of negative things in life that can bring you down. The drudgery and the boredom of day-to-day things that you have to do, like doing laundry or dishes or whatever, or, and then there's going to be negative things that are really sad, things that make you sad, anxious, which we could talk about in the next. But that's one of the many things I love about us, is that we make each other laugh so much. And just day to day, we make each other laugh. Yeah. And you understand me better than anyone else ever has. And sometimes I don't even have to say anything. You just read my expression or my body language, and you can understand, okay, he's not
I will literally,
comfortable.
He will do something, and I'll be like, you did this because you thought XYZ, and you go, that is exactly why I did that. Be like, okay, this is why we're never doing it that way. Like, you know what I mean? No, I'm like, I know what you thought, but this is what I need from you in this situation. Like, for instance, I know he's gonna hate where the paper towels are at some point.
Yeah, you know me so well.
Yeah. He's like, why are they in a drawer? Because that's where I want them.
You can have them out in the open where you can get to them quicker right away.
Yeah, I know,
but
we're trying to do a more...
Yeah. You make things a lot better around the house, too. You improve a lot of things. And you are so smart on how you plan things and how...
I try to make it as... And, I may hate the paper towels there in, like, a week, but for right now, it's fine.
Yeah.
So this is the portion of the podcast where we're going to do the too long didn't read,
Yeah.
too long didn't listen.
Version.
So essentially, how me and Nick met.
Yeah, you're better at summarizing than I am.
We met through a mutual friend at a job that we had, where we worked 2 different shifts, but the friends switched between shifts midway through. Basically, we met through mutual friends at work, and that's how we met. And we've been together for 8 years and a month.
Yeah, it'll be 9 years.
It'll be 9 years in February of next year. So we've been together a long time. And in the next podcast, we'll be talking about... I was going to do Journey of our channel, but I think the mental health one will be more interesting for the next one.
I think so, yeah. And the struggles of being an introvert and mental health issues and all.
I think that's an important one to do.
It is very important because might be people that have similar situations to us, and it might help them to know that they're not alone and that other people think that similar things that they've thought and have similar experience that they've had.
So, we will see you guys in the next podcast. Well, you'll hear us. We won't see anybody, but we will see you guys then. So, thank you guys for listening.
And thank you, Michelle, for all that you've done and all our time together. I love you, and I appreciate you very much. I love you, Becky.
I love you, too. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next episode. Thank you guys so much. If you stuck through here, thank you guys. And in the next episode, we will get better with each podcast, and we will figure out as it goes on.
So we will try to make Pete not bark, but the neighbors are outside, so we may end up doing these at night when everything's quiet. All right, bye guys.
Bye everybody.